Oh, hi. So, yesterday I posted a video on our Sticky Love where I went into how Yoon-se, the female lead, was kind of gaslit into becoming a Stepford wife. I am exaggerating, but only mildly. And while that was a part of the story that obviously bothered me, I feel like that was almost an accidental consequence of other writing choices the script made. And this video is where we try to correct a few of them and try to see what our Sticky Love would have been with some changes. Now, before I dive into my alternate version of Our Sticky Love, I got a really good comment yesterday fixing one of the issues of the drama. You see, Yoon-se and Tae-ha have met twice before current times. Once when they were teenagers and once when Yoon-se was a law student. And Yoon-se didn't remember him from her teenage years, and it's hard to tell if adult Yoon-se would have remembered meeting him in Tokyo and spending a night walking around with this strange man and telling him all of her life story. However, our hero remembers her because he is flawless in the script. Man has no blemish except for the years and years he spent as a gangster doing who knows what. It's being kept very, very vague. Anywho, so it is that history that saves Yoon-so's life when he finds her bludgeoned and in a coma and expected to end her life and vanish her. There are two problems in this situation. One I will tackle in my alternate version, and the other one is solved really well by the solution given in this comment. Case Any Procos 2681 proposes that they could have fixed the strangers to fiancé's problem by making them date in the past. They could have known each other well and even had lots of pictures together. But he broke up with her when he needed the money for his grandmom's medical expenses and decided to choose the criminal path while she wanted to become a prosecutor. Also, let's say they lived in Seoul, so the people in his village would not have known her. And then years passed. This is the really good solution to how he knows so much about her, and far better than she told him an absurd amount about her life in one night of walking around town together, and he remembers every single detail, even though it's been like how many years? 6, 7 years in the story. In an additional comment, they also point out that Tae-ha could still act stiff and awkward around Yoon-se because their relationship ended years ago. So he was trying to respect her privacy and keep his distance, all of which works. And this fixes another problem. Through most of this drama, Yoon-se has amnesia, which has been caused by brain injury. She is a patient, and he has idealized her from like 2 instances of meeting her way in the past, and the current version of her isn't even like the full version of her. So he's essentially projecting his hopes and dreams of all of those years onto this current version of Yoon-se sans her memory. Like, there is a lot wrong with this flavor of insta love. But if they actually had dating history, it would make for some really fun situations, and Yoon-se, instead of feeling like an absolute aversion towards him, could actually be attracted to him, even though she also feels like she was not in a relationship with him. Like, that messed up feeling inside her. Their push and pull would have been a lot more fun. She might even have instinctively known things about him that would have helped sort of solidify his case of, oh, we've been dating, oh, we are actually affianced, instead of having like all of the people around her gaslight into believing something that she absolutely does not believe. Also, the fact that a stranger is making life decisions for her. Like, I don't love the idea of an ex making life decisions for her either, but at least he already has a history of deeply caring for her. And let's say in this version, he's actively trying to bring back her memories instead of constantly confusing her with a fake backstory and telling her that her instincts are wrong. Like, now that I think about it, an amnesiac, even according to the therapist in this drama, needs people around her to constantly like help her reconnect with familiar things. And them telling her a lie about her life might actually have prolonged her amnesia. Like, it might actually have done real harm. Okay, so I thought that was a fun fix to the how does he know so much about her problem. And also, you could pull from the relationship problems they had before. Like, he took the gangster route, she took the prosecutor one. All these years, she has known what life he has been leading. So instead of Yoon-se finding out that he's ex-gangster and then almost immediately being okay with it, this could actually be like a core internal struggle between the two of them. Like, one of the things that they need to figure out and he needs to compensate for somehow before they can actually have a real relationship. Like this would be a second chance romance with amnesia plot thrown in. This could be so much fun. And okay, now my alternate version. There are certain things that if this drama had done slightly different, I think my own general enjoyment of the drama and investment in this couple would have gone up by a mile. First thing I would have wanted them to do is completely scratch out the childhood connection, teenagehood connection, any way back when type of connection. The reason for that is Tae-ha's motivation for refusing to kill her and dispose of her body, which was the order that he got, was that he recognized her as someone from her past. So what stopped him from killing her was not that his conscience wouldn't let him, because apparently he would have totally done away with her if they didn't coincidentally have a history. What they could have done instead of this, which I would personally have enjoyed a lot, is, let's say, because we have been told over and over that Tae-ha is someone who is not meant for the gangster life. Like, he was forced to go into it because he needed a lot of money to treat his grandmom, and not because he had an inclination towards, that kind of violent life. He could have been an Olympic athlete. Okay, cool. In that case, let's say he had served his 10 years. In this case, he had been a gangster for 14 years, but let's say he had served his 10 years or 12 years. At which point he went to his boss and was like, I want out. And the boss was like, fine. But, there's usually a cost of leaving a gang. Instead of slashing your ankle or whatever, you can take the fall for some crime that we need a patsy to go to jail for. And he does it. He takes the fall for it. He goes to prison, spends a couple of years there. I would prefer if it's more than a couple, maybe 3-4 years. Anyway, spends some time in prison, then comes out and then goes straight to the Taffy village where his grandmom is. And this is his reformed gangster arc. Like, he spends time in the village establishing relationships, because right now we don't know when he established any of the relationships that we see in this drama. I mean, yes, he had a relationship with them when he was young, but he's been a gangster for 14 years. He's been spending a substantial amount of that time in Tokyo managing companies related to this gang. So when exactly did he form the current relationships that he has with the villagers? The village has all of 10 people, by the way. We never see anyone outside these 10 people. But anyway, because everybody treats him like an ex-gangster, not someone who's currently part of a gang, but as someone who has already left the gang. For something like this to be universally known and accepted as truth, there had to be some time before the female lead was brought into the village for this to be like an accepted norm. So which is why I'm saying let him spend some time in prison. That way we also get the normie satisfaction that yes, this guy was part of a gang, but he spent 4 years in prison. So he got some amount of punishment for the crimes against civilians that he has done. Even if it was not a justified amount, it was some amount. And then in that village, he's spending time there being a perfectly ordinary boxing assistant coach to his old mentor. He's helping him train this young man, He has a perfectly normie life with a dog he's found, and he's just living that normie life when suddenly he gets a call from his old gang boss. And the gang boss goes, hey, Tae-ha, come back. I need you to do me one more favor. Yes, I said you could leave the gang, but in this situation, I need your specialty. And as it happens, his specialty maybe used to be disposing bodies in ways that could not be traced back to the gang. And he's like, well, I've been out of this for, 4 years, But let's say, for whatever reason, the gang boss really leans on him and says do this and we will never bother you again. Maybe there is something. Maybe there are other members of the gang that he had affection for, who were brothers to him, who wanted to leave. And maybe the gang boss holds that on him and is do this for us and I will let you take, 5 of your brothers out of the gang. And so Tae-ha goes to see, well, who am I supposed to? Because he really, really cares about these people and these people desperately want to leave. He goes to kind of see what the situation is, who needs to be disposed of. He goes there and finds that this young woman is lying there in a pool of blood And like he's been told that she's already dead, but then he notices that she's not actually dead. He has no prior connections with her, has not ever met her. He knows who she is because the gang boss told him who she is, not because he knows anything about her personally. So he saves her because she is alive. And he would have actually gone through with disposing of her body and setting it up so that it never gets traced back to the gang, except for the fact that she's alive. And he, 4 years out of the gang, he no longer had it in him to end a life. So he doesn't do it. Instead, he fakes it with the help of his coach slash mentor, which, by the way, how was this boxing coach able to help him with like disappearing her body? Like, how were they able to plan this together? They almost made it seem like the boxing coach had gangster history. Anyway, let's say he actually gets the help of, his mentor, but also some of these brothers that he is getting out of the gang. And all of them manage to pull off a scam so that the gang boss is convinced that her body has been disposed of, whereas they have smuggled her away to a distant hospital somewhere to recover. And then she wakes up with amnesia because they were hoping she would just wake up like normally, and they could be like, listen, if you stay here, they will kill you. Here is your documents. We will figure out a boat. Go to Japan. She wakes up. They find out that she wakes up. So they secretly go there and then realize that she has amnesia. And the problem is she's making a lot of noise. Like she is trying to call up like government offices and stuff. She's doing a lot of things that will absolutely alert the mole in the prosecutor's office, mayor's office, the gangster boss. They will absolutely find out that she's alive. And then the lives of those few younger gang brothers would be kind of, they would all die. And of course, Tae-ha would also die, and maybe his grandmom as well. So he needs to save all of their lives and preserve the lie, which is why he goes to her and claims to be her fiancé and takes her back to the Taffy village. And then you can have pretty much the same kind of storytelling that happens here, except for the fact that she never has that unmaking of herself moment. Instead, she is allowed to be suspicious and disbelieving. And there should be, at some point, a moment where Tae-ha goes, listen, I can see that you don't believe that we belong together. Let us not be partners. Let us just be housemates. How about you work for my grandmother's taffy thingy place and you can pay me rent from that. It'll be like a very tiny bit of rent. But you will be my tenant and not my girlfriend. We'll live in separate spaces. I want you to have the time and freedom and space to figure out who you are. Like, let's have him do that. So that she's not pressured into accepting a relationship really fast. Because even though from him, she did not feel that romantic pressure in this drama, she herself was putting that pressure on herself. Because how can she not remember the closest person to her in her life? And I would have really loved for her to retain her confidence / arrogant personality and still get closer to the different people in the village. Not just overnight becomes like this very sweet, humble, oh, I am one of you girls kind of person. But someone who is softened slowly as she starts to notice the sweeter side of village life. And she keeps that edge, the city girl edge, but it starts to mix with the new sides to herself that she finds while working and living in that little village. I feel like I would have really liked her, like if she had to be changed or softened in any way, I would have liked that instead of like the brutal elimination of her confidence that we saw in the drama. So that was the alternate version in my head. There are a couple of other things that we can address. As Nader and M1G points out, one of the problems with Eun-hae's prosecutor persona is that she is shown to be someone who can afford supercars and spend in luxury boutiques. I honestly don't know how much prosecutors make, even top prosecutors, but they do work for the government, and no matter how high they get paid. I feel like unless they are corrupt, they would not be able to buy supercars. But again, this drama is not leaning into that. Like, they're not showing Eun-hae being tempted by bribes. She is instead shown as someone who is willing to risk her life to root out corruption and bring a gangster and a corrupt mayor to justice. So if that is her persona, then how is she funding the supercar? I think this is something they added in because they needed her to be arrogant. Like I said in my last video, they needed her to have a flaw to fix. So either make Eun-hae someone who had been corrupted over the years, just like Tae-ha had entered a gang. She had slowly, through the darkness of her profession, been at least partially corrupted, which is how she suddenly has so much money, even though she has to be really stupid to be flaunting that money in front of her colleagues. Prosecutors usually have a lot of scrutiny on them, so it would be a very stupid thing to do. On the other hand, they could just entirely take this nonsense out. Like, she could just be a straight up honest prosecutor, and if again you have to give her a flaw because a story with a character arc is always good, make her someone who has become very cynical over the years. Let's say years ago when she was in college, she had a real love for life and humanity, like real optimism in her soul. But over the years, she has seen so much darkness that she's kind of become super cynical. And that cynicism stays as part of her character even after she's actually lost all her memory. And that is something the villagers don't know how to deal with, because she sees every action in the most negative light while also being justifiably skeptical of everything she's being told. I feel like that is a complication that they can slowly walk through in the script, where she has every right not to trust these people, but these people are also doing their damage to keep her alive and also a bunch of other people alive. And they're also trying to actively bring her memory back instead of like constantly gaslighting her. That is very important, guys. That needs to change. Okay, so that is it. This was the bonus video. I hope this was fun, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.